Welcome viewers. Our guest today is Dr. Bryn Kulmatycki, President and CEO of Northern Lights College. Welcome, Dr. Bryn.
Thank you.
Great to have
Thank you very
here.
much, Faisal. Yes, nice to be here.
Excellent. So first of all, please tell us briefly about the history of Northern Lights College.
Sure. So Northern Lights College actually has existed for a long time in various different forms. And it actually started, and it's an outgrowth of the American military. So at one point there was a radar station in Dawson Creek. It was called the DEW Line, Distant Early Warning Line, built by the Americans. And they built an installation there, and it had many buildings and residences and all the things that they needed to run their military. And eventually the Cold War kind of became something else, and the US military decided to leave. And when they left, they turned over all of their facilities and their infrastructure to the province. And at that time, in Dawson Creek, there was and existed an agricultural college. And it was mostly a federally funded type of program to support agriculture in the region. And they decided to convert all of those buildings and the institution and all the facilities there into a community college, because they were, at that time, it was giving rise to community colleges all across British Columbia. So the military establishment became a community college, and we just borrowed all of the buildings that were there at that time, and we've added on some buildings since then. So that is the history of the start of Northern Lights College. We know that at Chetwynd, there was post-secondary education being delivered in the late 1940s. There were people talk about courses, right, and that has been sort of documented in some of the history books there. But that is the original start of Northern Lights College, and from there, for instance, we use the airplane hangar. We teach the aircraft maintenance program. We use their kitchen to teach the whole old mess hall to teach the cooking program, and all of the things that they had, we just converted and are using for our own college.
That's interesting. And what's the mission of the college?
The mission of the college is to provide learning for the community as a community center. So we apply learning in terms of academic, applied learning, and mainly to serve the community, industry, and just the general public for general interest.
Right, sir. And what's the vision of the present administration?
So the vision of the administration currently is to promote and move the college forward to become the college of choice in this part of the region. And we are designated as a resource-based college. So the province has given us some titles, if you like, and basically we're known as the Energy College. So we support energy in all its various forms: wind energy, petroleum energy, natural gas, whatever, water resources, so on, forestry.
Great. And how are you supported by the college board?
So the college board is a board that's appointed by the province, and they are citizens who sit to make and they make policy decisions regarding the college, and they have, under the Act, certain responsibilities and stewardship of the finances and the operations. And the board itself hires the president to run the college for them, as they have oversight. The board, though, the college is actually what we call bicameral. So there are actually two governing authorities in the college. There's the Board of Governors. They have oversight over the entire college. But we also have an Education Council, and they also have jurisdiction under the law in the Act, and they are responsible for all the academic decisions in the college. For instance, they determine the extent of programming especially the content of the courses. They have oversight and provide a lot of the peer review that's required to update on a regular basis new additions to programs. And they also determined certain policies to govern students and even student behavior within the college. The bicameral means that there are two decision-making groups, and it's the job of the president, who has to delicately dance between the two of them and make the system work. The college board, while it cannot overrule any decisions that the college academic council, the education council, has jurisdiction over, it cannot. It still maintains some oversight, mainly through management of the budget. So I'll give you an example that's kind of silly, and you'll get the kind of understand it. For instance, pretend that the Academic Council, the Education Council, decided that they wanted to have a nuclear physics program in Fort St. John. And they develop the courses and they approve it, and it goes through a very rigorous review process. And lots of stakeholders have input into that, including possibly community members. And they approve it, and then they hand it to the board and say, we want to have a nuclear physics program. Well, that's true, and they could do that, but the board would have some oversight and say, well, that's very nice, Education Council, that you did that. We just don't have the finances to run it. So it would just sit. And that's the kind of balance that exists in a college. The faculty do not want to spend a great deal of effort trying to develop programs that are probably not going to be able to run. So they focus on the things that are running, that they need to run, that they need to develop, and then the board can support that. That's the kind of the check and balance in the system. It works very well.
Good. And how is the college supported by the government?
The government provides funding for the college, and under the legislation in British Columbia, the college board and the college operations are actually an arm of the government. So they are like another department under the government. They are not independent, like a school board or a hospital board or maybe a city council. Those have independent jurisdictions. The college in the Act says that we are an agent of the government, so we need to promote and advance the government agenda. For instance, the work program that the government has, if they want special training programs delivered, if they decide that they want to have certain programs in this part of the province, say things related to, say oceanography would be in the coastal area, and maybe in Fort St. John you would maybe concentrate more on oil and gas because that's what you have. So they dictate some of that, and the college must live within that. It doesn't have the right to overrule it. And it exists basically at the whim of government. They provide funding and for the buildings and for the management and for the operation of the college. And students support their programs through tuition fees, and that is the system that we have.
Great. And what are the strengths of the programs being offered by the college?
There are a number of strengths of programs offered at Northern Lights College specifically. The first is the classes are small, so students get very, very careful attention. The second thing is we have a number of support systems in place for students at Northern Lights College. So if you've been out of school for a while and you want to return, or you need someone to tutor you in a particular concept, we have some services to support student learning. The third one is we are cheap, if I can use that term. Relatively speaking, compared to other colleges in the province, our tuition is relatively low, and you can actually do 2 years of university study at Northern Lights College and then transfer that into a university program. So it allows students to stay at home, live at home, not incur any of the moving expenses or the living expenses that you would incur if you had to move to another community, and get your first 2 years and then transfer into a university program. So in that sense, the transferability is a very, very good attribute for students who come to Northern Lights College. Also, the review process that we have within the Education Council to maintain the programs as being current and relevant. There's a peer review process that the faculty engage in, and it keeps everything current, so that's another advantage that we have. So there are a lot of advantages for students to study at Northern Lights College and stay in the community and be part of it.
Right. So the value for money part which you have highlighted. So Northern Lights College is a fully accredited public sector institution, and as compared to some other institutions, I noticed some of the master's programs, only the tuition has increased to almost $120,000 for a less than 2-year degree program. So as compared to that, as far as I understand, believe, it provides value for money, it's economical.
Absolutely it does,
Good.
Faisal, absolutely.
Good. And how do you ensure academic freedom at the college?
Academic freedom is a very interesting and actually exciting concept, and it's unique to all the other industries, I think, in the world. And it means, and it refers to allow the faculty and the students to explore disciplines and advance ideas that may not be mainstream, and they do that to advance knowledge and growth of knowledge, and that is the system. It's been in place for 1,000 years, and it works. The guarantee for academic freedom to allow faculty and even students to participate in that is actually more under the guide of the academic or the education council of the college as it is for a board of governors or the president, in that the education council does all of the policy decisions related to academic learning and academic discourse that would take place in a college. And it's the peer review that from faculty that allow them to stand up and say, you know, you've advanced some kind of an idea here, but I think it's kind of silly. And they do that on their own. As the college administration, though, you need an administration who supports and allows that. There have been instances in Canada where there may have been more interference than really was required. Some of it becomes political and maybe needed to have been rethought a little bit before it was initiated. It's a delicate balance. At Northern Lights College, we don't really have significant issues related to it, but it could develop overnight. And you need to always be aware of it and astute to listen to make sure that it's guaranteed. There's always rules and regulations in a country guaranteeing freedom of speech and so on. And in Canada, we don't have absolute authority to just go and spout off and say anything you want. So there's some balances and checks in there. But academic freedom is a very, very critical part of any academic institution to allow freedom of thought and advancement of new ideas.
Excellent. And how is Northern Lights College a true community college?
Well, to be a community college, you need to be able to respond to what the community needs, which is a task in itself, and it requires a great deal of consultation with community and the ability for the college to go out and engage the community in conversations about what their needs are. Responsiveness to the community, all of the communities, really requires direct consultation with the people there and ask what they need. It also is a response to not just individuals in the community, but to the community generally. So groups within the community, for instance, the arts groups or literary groups, they also have needs, and those needs have to be addressed. They may need special programs or courses, or they may want to bring in special speakers. The college can and does facilitate that. Industry has needs, and the community industries in all of our communities have needs, and they need training needs. They need workers and employees who have certain skills to come to work with certain skills, but also once they're at work to improve their skills and grow and become even better employees through professional development and so on. So the college can engage in that. It's the exchange between the college and the communities that really make it a community college. It doesn't really operate as an independent unit all on its own, doing its own thing and announcing what programs it's going to do. It's an engagement with the community.
Right. And how does it cover such a vast area and so many communities?
Yes, that is the challenge. Northern Lights College covers, our service delivery area, Faisal, is about 1/3 of British Columbia. So our territory extends from the Alberta border on the east side to the Alaska border on the west side, and the territory's border on the north and goes way somewhere close to the Mackenzie area, somewhere between Mackenzie and Chetwynd in there. There are challenges with that because with distance like that and the communities being not very large and very spread out, travel to the communities and maintaining communications with the communities becomes a challenge for the board and also for faculty who have to deliver programs in those communities. So we have additional costs that we have to consider and we have to provide for, and the government is aware of this and they support us with that. They do understand that if we're going to have a course delivered in a very small community, let's say Dees Lake, there's not likely going to be a full class of 16 students there. It'll be smaller, and they accommodate that. They allow that to take place.
Great. And how does the college support the learners in the Aboriginal communities?
For the learners in the Aboriginal communities, we have challenges because the communities are isolated and distant. And historically in Canada, there has not been a great deal of attention paid to that fact. Aboriginal education in Canada fell under the jurisdiction, and still does fall under the jurisdiction in large part to the federal government, who has made decisions over the many years regarding education for Aboriginal communities. And there have been many failures attached to that particular type of a program. So we find ourselves today trying to recover from some of the decisions that were made years ago, which don't serve us very well anymore. Aboriginal learners are more engaged. They are seeking higher levels of education than what was provided before by the federal government, including access to education, which is basically the ability to find education close at hand, because travel for them is a little more difficult. They're far away. They don't have access to many of the services that even in a larger community might have. There's also the urban Aboriginal community, the many Aboriginals who live within Fort St. John, and some of their special needs that they have. So we need to address all of those. A development that took place within the last 5 years has been the Truth and Reconciliation Commission out of Ottawa. And that commission was charged with the responsibilities of addressing some of the issues related to the residential school circumstances that developed and all of the fallout that evolved from that. And with all of that got addressed, one of the major recommendations from that commission that applies to us here as in Fort St. John would be it has charged community colleges with the responsibility to provide opportunities to educate the public at large, all citizens, about what happened with the residential school systems, the tragedies that caused, the many difficulties that it has caused generations later even, and the healing process that needs to take place from that point forward. And it is an excellent recommendation in that it doesn't dwell on what happened so much. It acknowledges what happens, and that was terrible. What it does is it says, okay, that's that. Where do we move forward from here? So a challenge for the college is to engage with our Aboriginal communities and to work with them to make the awareness of all the people in the communities that we serve, what happened and where are we going from there. So it's an important agenda item for the college.
Thank you. And in general, what are the advantages of studying in the northern communities?
Well, we're wonderful, but besides being wonderful, the advantage of studying in the north are that as you're studying, in many respects, there are opportunities here. It has always been a thing about living and working in the north. Although we don't have the opera theaters and we don't have some of the great, arenas and all the things you might find in a large city, what we have in the north are opportunities and adventure. And we have beautiful, pristine lakes, scenery, wildlife, all sorts of recreation. You don't have that in a larger urban center. And you don't even have that in certain parts of BC, which is not urban. We have it here. And the opportunity to engage in nature and the opportunity to find good quality work and make a living and maybe even earn a very good salary exists here. And it doesn't really exist in the same way in other places.
And we have less traffic.
We definitely have less traffic.
Good. And please comment on the famous quote of Emerson: "The success in education lies in respecting the student."
Yes, the student is really the focus of probably all education, and certainly is the focus of education at Northern Lights College. It is the focus of our faculty, it is the focus of our staff. And what it means is you take a student and you accept the student where that student is in terms of their learning, which is a little different, not really different, but a little different, say, in the K-12 system, where you're regimented into grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, grade 4, and then they provide some individual changes within that kind of a structure. The college is a little different. You can take each student one by one and develop a learning program that suits that student, and you can provide certain upgrading and certain assistance to that student as that student needs it, even if the next person doesn't. So respecting the student where he is, what he needs, and where he wants to go is really what that particular quote is all about.
Good. And please also comment on another famous quote of Benjamin Franklin, which is that an investment in education provides the best dividends.
Yes, the investment in education definitely does provide the best dividends on very many levels. On an individual level, we know that education works. We know that even in third world countries where there are big struggles, if we can provide education and help advance the learning within that particular community or that particular country, it helps propel the country forward and improves the quality of life of the individuals. So that's a generalization globally. Education works, it improves society, it improves our whole structure of quality of life. In terms of, and so that's globally. In terms of an individual, the benefits for the education is the individual can accept and embrace education on a lifelong learning basis. Learning really never ends, and formal learning never really needs to end. For instance, this year at Convocation at Northern Lights College, we had very young students who are still in high school completing college courses and accredited certification. We had someone who was 65 years old who graduated along with their son and came to college and completed their studies. It never ends, and that's what that's all about.
Great. And what are the best things you like about our executive, faculty, and staff in terms of the support you get?
So at Northern Lights College, our faculty are really exemplary. So they stand out. It's a thing about being able to teach adults, and there's a difference between teaching adults and teaching in the K-12 system. The K-12 system we often refer to pedagogy, and adult education we refer to as andragogy. Adults learn much differently. They engage in learning. They don't. It's not so much rote learning and memorizing, and our faculty are excellent at that. They come from many fields, they come from many parts of the world. You can't be just, for instance, a tradesperson and be a faculty. You need to be a tradesperson and someone who can teach and knows the art of teaching and can present the knowledge to a student so that the student can learn and gain it and then perform the tasks. You know, not everybody can do that. And at Northern Lights College, we have support systems in place to help our faculty. I'm very proud of the achievements of our many faculty, and I just want to talk about that just for a minute. They engage in the community. They are involved in many volunteer efforts within Fort St. John and Dawson Creek and elsewhere. They engage in leadership, involved with youth groups. They're involved in many, many organizations. So not only do they contribute to the college and to the students' growth, they extensively contribute to the community and the community advancement. They have many, many successes, and they are just I find them a great bunch to work with.
Excellent. So you get similarly, I would say, wonderful support from the administration.
Absolutely. So in terms of our support, exactly the same thing applies. The college is quite large. Collectively, we have about 300 employees, and they are an integral part of each community in which they engage and in which they live. And again, they are involved in many volunteer groups and athletic groups, and you name it, they are part. They contribute to the community generally. Library boards, they're all over there, and I'm very proud of what they do too. So we have a staff who engages not only with the college and helps the students, they are also helping our communities grow.
Wonderful. And what is quality-oriented education to you?
To me, quality education is actually quite a broad term. Quality not only refers to how it's delivered and the expertise of the person who is delivering it, for instance, a teacher who is delivering it and provides good quality. It also refers to the content of the programs, the ability to have programs that are relevant and modern and respond to what the community needs. And quality also refers to the academic side of that ledger. You need to have academic standards and maintain those standards, and our academic faculty do that, mostly through the Education Council. So the quality is, to a large degree, what's called peer-driven in terms of curriculum, and the quality comes with the wonderful people we have delivering the programs. So
Excellent.
that's what it is.
Very good. And what are the best thing you like about our students?
Our students, our students come from all over the world now. We have a number of international students, and we have a number of domestic students, and our students are aged, like I said, from even in high school all the way up to senior citizens. The best thing I like about students is that when you talk with them, they engage you. They are challenging, they want to know, they ask intelligent questions, and sometimes you have to kind of look around for the answer very quickly because they'll challenge you with your answer too. So they are alive and they bring a certain dynamic and excitement to the college. They like to have fun, and many of them struggle with work and families as well. I really like and admire their ability to take on all of that and be successful at it. It's wonderful that they can do that. They do it.
Very good. And finally, what's your message for the learners of our community?
The message is Northern Lights College is a place where you can come and learn and be part of the community. The costs are not prohibitive. We have a number of programs in place to support costs. Our foundation last year gave out well over $750,000 to students. And our college is small. We don't have many students. And they all got finances to help them through. So it's a great place to learn, and it's wonderful, and the standards are very high, and I'm very, very proud of what happens there.
Very good. Thank you for your services, and thank you for coming to our